We are going to be building a workbench. It's not going to be anything crazy fancy. I got some 2x4s that are going to run through the planer because the workbench is going to also be the table for our router sled. So I need everything to be perfectly flat, really, really good, so I can flatten out all of the different cutting board projects we have. Remember, we have this epoxy board that needs to get done. We still have this one in the mold that's ready to come out. That needs to get done. We got the Mini Cooper S R53 race project that we're working on out there. We got the simulator up for sale, and all of this woodworking stuff is just kind of scattered around everywhere. We got to get a little more organized. We got to get our clamps organized, all of our extra wood organized. So I'm going to go ahead and build this bench. It's not going to be anything too crazy, but it is going to be useful. So if you need something that's not way over the top, doesn't really require a set of plans, stick around because I'm going to run all this through the planer. I'm going to show you some planer tricks when you're planing 2x4s. But we've been using these plastic tables, and as you can see, it doesn't like all of the weight that we've been putting on these things. So it is definitely time to build something else so we can have a place to sand, set up shop, and do all the stuff that we're trying to do. Let's get to it. I'll show you a trick here. When you're running something like this through the planer, you can go ahead and you can see these things, they really need to be flattened out. You can take a clamp and put it kind of far back and go ahead and clamp this on, and this will give you a nice place to get everything kind of on the same plane before it runs through the planer. Get it squeezed together real tight. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the back. And then I'm going to start running this through the planer. And then as it goes through the planer, I'll go ahead and pull these off. And then when it comes out the other side, I'll go ahead and put it back on. Super cool trick. Makes it really easy. I'm going to slide this one back just a hair. Makes it really easy to get stuff like this through the planer without, putting screws or trying to do anything crazy. So now that I have this, I'll just go ahead and pick this thing up. And as it starts to go through the planer, I'll pop the clamps off and we'll be good to go. All right, and this is why we need a bench, because when I ran these through the planer, the table started to cave in and didn't want to cooperate with us. So we're gonna cut these down to just 3 boards so it's a little more manageable. But now that I'm on the floor, shouldn't really be an issue, but 3 boards will be a lot easier to manage, and we'll get a much better turnout until I have a bench built. So let's go ahead and run these through. And there we go. Now we have nice flat surface for our router table or router sled table that we're gonna build. So everything is gonna be on the same plane so we can level our cutting boards and any other slabs we wanna level pretty easy. And it's gonna double as a workbench. So I'm gonna get all this stuff cleaned up. Whew! And it's gonna be nice to have that off the floor so I don't gotta bend over so much and stop breaking all the plastic tables. So let's get these things cut. Got all the wood planed out, nice and flat now. It's gonna be a really good base for our router sled. We got some boards marked out. We're gonna go ahead and get this thing cut up, and then we're gonna start assembly. It's gonna be a quick, easy workbench. So if you're looking to build a router sled table that is quick, easy, we're gonna put some storage on it for clamps, some other things. This is the one. Maybe I'll even draw some plans up, I don't know. But stay tuned, I'm gonna show you how this works, and we have 2 epoxy boards that we're gonna run through. We're really excited about it. Let's get to it. Okay, so we're gonna get this marked out. We're putting braces every 14.5 inches. That's how we're gonna brace it up. So I know that's overkill, but I want this thing to be really, really strong and not have any chance of warping or moving over time. So that's how we're doing it. Then we're gonna have the 4x4s come up, so there'll be another support for the MDF top, and then we should have a perfectly flat surface for our router sled. So we're gonna countersink all these, countersink bit. If you don't have one of these, it's really helpful. Suggest you get one. So we are gonna be using 5-inch long, I prefer the Torx head style screws. So that's what we're using because I want this thing to be really strong. So we're we're gonna use some 4x4s, just Doug fir 4x4s. We're gonna cut these at 34 inches tall because we're gonna have a 5/8 MDF top along with about a 2.5 inch caster. So that'll give us right around 36 inches, 37 inches with everything, which is a good height for our chairs that we use a lot, so we can sit and sand, and also we can stand up and use it as a workbench. Once we have the router sled rails on it, it won't bring it up too high. I think that that's a good measurement. So we're gonna get these cut and then get them installed. Other thing I like to do is I like to make 2 cuts. So I'm gonna cut it long so I have 2 nice fresh cut edges, and I'm not relying on any factory edges. So I'll make 1 cut and then flip it to my measurement and then cut it from there. Next, I have some casters. I'm thinking these will be strong enough. I have my sim on similar casters and it's pretty damn heavy. So if I end up needing to get bigger ones in the future, I'll get bigger ones. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and use these guys. People watching this video, like, what do they do for space? Like, I know that you can put them up against the wall and there's all these things, but it's like, they're always flimsy pieces of shit unless they're like dedicated, you know?
The fold up against the wall stuff, I've never really been a huge fan of. After time, like no matter what,
they just get wobbly, yeah. Yeah, that's good.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's a little tall, but I think it's good because a lot of times we're going to be standing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Perfect height because that's just so high.
And then we're not going to be bent over all the time, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is really nice and flush. Yeah, check this out, guys. This is why we ran it through the planer right here. Look at that level. Making contact at every single point. All of this is nice and flush. That's why we make sure we cut both ends on the chop saw. That looks really, really good. It is nice and flush. Like, there's no lip at all. It's really nice. So after we got this all built, I was like, oh no, it's wider than 4 feet. But just like, and we're at 47 inches, 3/4, which means our MDF is gonna cover this just perfect. Beautiful. Let's lock these casters down. So we're a little out of square here, which isn't a huge deal. We could just cut the board that way, but rather than do that, we're just gonna throw a strap from end to end, and then I'm gonna tighten this strap up. And we're gonna suck this in to where we're perfectly square, and then look at that. Now I'm perfectly square on my edge here, and I can now put screws all the way down this edge and down the back edge, and that's gonna hold the table square. So I'm gonna go ahead and knock that out. All right, so here's what we got going on, guys. I built the table 1 foot longer than the router sled needed to be. That way I could have this area to store all of my clamps. So you can see I got my cheap Harbor Freight clamps stored here with just a 1-inch pipe. These come out real easy. They just turn and come straight out. Real easy to put them back, turn them in, good to go. And then obviously these are just hanging on there, so no big deal there. And I have some of my Irwin clamps. This is for my table over there. You guys saw me use those in other videos. All my smaller clamps, and then I have my two big DeWalt clamps underneath the table. We're gonna put storage underneath here. We're gonna cut this sheet of MDF, throw that underneath for storage, and then that's where I am going to keep the planer and the miter saw. That way I can just put it on top of the bench when I need to use it, or I can set up my miter saw stand since I have that. But let's go ahead and get this cut. We already got the measurement, 65 1/8 by 37 1/2. So we're gonna get this cut down, get it put on. Here we are. So we got the workbench just about done, at least how we want it for right now. We got all of our cheap Harbor Freight clamps on the side, all of our bar clamps, all the other miscellaneous clamps. Everything fits in here really nice. There's enough storage for the small amount of wood that we generally have on hand. If we need more, we'll generally be running to the store for whatever specific project we're working on. But what are the dimensions of this thing again?
48 by 72 is the whole dimensions. The actual router sled is 48 by 60.
Okay, so here's what we got. actual usable dimensions for our router sled, we could have gone a couple inches bigger, but we set it up a little small because we want it to be stored over there really easily. So our actual dimensions are 58 by 48. So we can flatten material 58 by 48 very easily. We're gonna go ahead and get the rest of this router sled set up. This thing came out pretty cool. We're stoked on it. Everything's nice and organized. We have the planer underneath. So we have the planer underneath. We have the miter saw underneath. We have some storage underneath. And we might do like a big pull-out drawer underneath as well. We have some small casters on it. We're probably gonna have to put a little bit bigger casters. They don't seem to like the weight on the epoxy floor. So we're gonna most likely be changing that out, but this is gonna work for now. Let's check out the router sled. Pretty fired up to give this thing a try. It seems like it works pretty good. We have this Freud slab flattening bit. It's pretty cool. So it comes with these turnable teeth, which I always love when I buy something that has these, because it means I can turn these teeth 4 times and this bit lasts twice as long. It's pretty expensive. It's more expensive than a lot of the other flattening bits I looked at, but it had really good reviews. But it is like 170 bucks, so it's a pretty expensive bit. I was a little bummed when I had to buy it, but we're gonna get this thing chucked up and give this a try. So this is our epoxy board that we did a couple weeks ago. We finally have the router sled set up, and I'm kind of nervous and excited, so let's give it a try. Wow, it's pretty cool. Dust collection is needed.
Dust collection is definitely on the list.
Okay, so since we built this table real fast and we're excited to try out our router sled here, what I'm doing is I'm just using some CA glue. I'm putting masking tape down. I'm gonna just take the CA glue and I'm gonna put a pretty good bit down on the masking tape so I don't just start tearing up my new table here. And then I'm gonna take my activator, I'm gonna spray my MDF, and I'm just gonna put this on here. Let that stick down, and then this board will be held in place nice and snug.
Let's check it out. Dude, that looks pretty freaking cool.
Here's a sneak peek of how these boards are coming out. Looks pretty rad if I do say so myself. The router sled worked absolutely awesome. That Freud bit, even though it was expensive, chewed right through this stuff with no issues. We have this epoxy board and another epoxy board, so make sure you like and subscribe. Those videos will be out in the next couple weeks, and we'll catch you on the next one.